Jameis Winston or Joe Flacco? Anthony Walker or Jordan Hicks? What about the picks or Jerry Jeudy? There has been a lot of activity for this Browns free agency period. Originally, we were just going to be talking about the Jerry Jeudy trade, but now so much has happened, I feel like we need to touch on a lot of it. So let's go through it piece by piece. I'm going to put timestamps down below so you can jump in between all the different signings and trades. And as always, be sure to light up the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Is AB really cooking again? So let's open up with Jerry Jeudy. They trade a 5th and a 6th round pick for him. Coming out of Bama, it was Jeudy and Ruggs. We know what happened to Henry Ruggs, but Jeudy hasn't lived up much to his hype either. At least he's still on the streets and not in prison though. All in all, I think that the consensus within draft experts is that this is a very top-heavy draft. Most of the talent is going to be gone by the 3rd round. The Browns have a 2nd and a 3rd, and I think that they are not in the business of developing wide receiver talent at this time. They already have a project in Cedric Tillman. They have some promising young talent with Elijah Moore, but Jerry Jeudy is a proven separator. He's not a proven playmaker, but he's been in a pretty dysfunctional situation. I always really liked Jerry Jeudy's route running ability. I thought that he could get open. He just needs to get the ball consistently, and he hasn't really played with quarterbacks who could do that for him. There are clearly still some lingering question marks in Cleveland with the quarterback situation. Can Watson take the other step? That's what we're all waiting to find out, but this is a piece that will give you a definitive answer if he is able to take the next step in terms of Deshaun Watson. For a 5th and a 6th, you are not going to get someone who is as developed or as talented as Jerry Jeudy. He's a Bama receiver. He's going to work well with Amari Cooper. He wants to model his game after him. And I think that they're pretty similar in the sense of they're not burners, but they can separate. They're very clean, precise route runners. Sometimes they struggle to catch the ball in contested situations. But again, you weren't going to find that talent in the 4th, in the 5th, in the 6th round. You could say, oh, what about Puka Nacua? That is a once in every 10 years kind of draft pick. So you can't bank on that, especially when the Browns are in a win now scenario. So I personally like it. And again, he doesn't have to be the number 1 option here, but Jeudy will be a proper mixture of speed, stretching the field. Next, let's talk about the current hottest debate on Browns Twitter. Jameis Winston signing over Joe Flacco. So it comes out they never actually offered Flacco a contract. They bring in Winston on a 1-year deal. And a lot of people are very upset about this. But this is the reality of the situation. Without Watson returning to form or being a guy who could throw 30 touchdowns and 10 or less interceptions, this team isn't going anywhere. We saw Joe Flacco start a playoff game against a young team in the wild card, and he threw 2 pick sixes. Sure, the Browns defense didn't do much to support him in that game, but still, you cannot be counting on Flacco. You can't be upset that they didn't re-sign him. You're better off having a guy who will push up the guy who is in front of him, and that is what Jameis Winston will do. Jameis Winston to me is one of the best characters, and I think honestly he will fully embrace the backup role and will do everything in his power to make Watson the best version of who he can be. I loved what Flacco did. That is one of the most memorable Browns seasons ever outside of 2020. That was so fun, such a magical time, but we got to be real. There's no future in it. We're not winning the Super Bowl with Joe Flacco. Deshaun Watson is the best chance. He is plan A, and there is no plan B beyond that. After this, it is a hard reset and rebuild with the young core. So you got to pray that it works, and I think that Winston is the guy who will help the most, and people won't be clamoring for him to start whenever, Watson has a game where he throws 2 picks, but still wins. That's the thing. Nothing will satisfy that demographic of Browns fans. So Flacco being on the roster is a no-no. Next, with free agent pickups, one that I really liked, Nyheim Hines. Been injured a lot, absolutely, but he is athletic to the point where you don't lose that step, even coming off of a knee injury. I think that with Hines, very restricted workload because he's going to be realistically 3rd on the depth chart behind Chubb and Jerome Ford. He's going to be a good passing threat, but also he's going to be a much needed weapon in the return game. This team has not had a great returner since Travis Benjamin had a few good moments, but really Josh Cribbs was that guy. He's one of the all-time greats, so you can't really compare that. But Nyheim Hines is a good returner and just a good flex piece who you can put in different scenarios, who can spark you, because one kick return at a pivotal moment in the year, in the season, it could wind up paying off. It could win you one game that you need. I like those kind of guys, and that's something we talked about. Bringing in explosive ball carriers, regardless of position, I like that. And it also limits you from needing to draft another running back, because realistically, you already have 3 guys. You have Nyheim Hines now, you have Jerome Ford, you have Nick Chubb, and you still have Pierre Strong under contract for a couple of seasons. And I really like what we saw out of Pierre Strong. And then Jordan Hicks. Jordan Hicks getting signed on a 2-year, $8 million deal. He's coming off of his best season, according to PFF. Jordan Hicks is a guy who has only improved every season. He's never really stuck, but sometimes with linebackers, it just takes them longer in their career to become dudes. I've been saying that linebacker is one of the most glaring weaknesses of this team, and just to have a guy who can be in position and who is more downhill than Anthony Walker and Taki, and who is more athletic in general to pair with JOK, I'm a big fan of that. And he was a captain in Minnesota. Those things really matter. Now let's talk about these re-signings. So re-sign Maurice Hurst. Big fan of that. He was the one guy who I really thought we were going to lose in free agency this year, but they get him back on a 1-year sort of prove it deal. What he was doing throughout the season last year, I mean, for a D tackle, he was getting a ton of interior pressure. And if you've listened to all these episodes on YouTube and whatnot, you've heard me talk about how undervalued interior pressure is. Really, really like that. Really like getting Shelby Harris back as well. That is huge. He's getting older, but still a great piece. They already have Dalvin Tomlinson under contract still. And then they get Za'Darius Smith. And Za'Darius Smith was one where I was like, I could see them letting him walk. He just didn't finish a lot of moments where it looked like he was going to make a game-changing play. But in general, he was solid. He played his part. He was better in run support than I think Jadeveon Clowney was. And he gets along with Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett seemed like he really became an adult this year, and I think that Za'Darius Smith had a big role to play in that, because you could see in all the minicamp stuff, in the training camp at Greenbrier, they were together all the time. And Za'Darius Smith being an older guy with a lot of experience, I think that rubbed off on Myles Garrett. So that's a good duo to have. And then I think behind him, Alex Wright's still on the roster. He made a really big jump last year that will only continue. And then you got Obo Okoronkwo, that speed and that Energizer Bunny coming off the edge as well. So really good stable of pass rushers. And then offensively, they re-signed Michael Dunn, who's just kind of a great flex piece within the interior offensive line. So guys, really quick, if you're enjoying the video, we still got some stickers left from last season. We're going to throw these 10% off. So if you guys want to buy some stickers, get ready for the draft, get ready for the season, load up on these. Really helps the channel with everything that we're trying to do and grow. So with all of these signings, where does that leave the Browns in terms of their draft approach? To me, there are 2 players. I'm talking about Jeremiah Trotter Jr. at linebacker and Ben Sinnott, the tight end from Kansas State. Sinnott is maybe my favorite player who I've ever seen who is not ranked as number 1 at his position. And Trotter comes from good stock, played at a school that played against good competition, and just pops off of the screen in every way. I think if you sat him behind Hicks for a year, he would become a monster. I think it even could become a competition within year 1 or in training camp even. Jeremiah Trotter has the size, not the perfect size that you would want, but you could see in his frame. He's a dude, and he plays downhill. I know that that's a big buzzword that people like to say, but he finishes on his stomach, not on his back. When he's blitzing, he knows how to evade running backs who step up in pass protection. He can reestablish himself laterally when players try to juke him out, which is going to be very important in the AFC North. And when he makes plays on the ball, he doesn't look shocked. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. jumps under routes, jumps out routes, and he flies to the end zone. Like, he looks like a skill player with the ball in his hands. And those are the people, the natural playmakers who you want on your team. I just see that, and that's the kind of guy I want on this defense. That is the linebacker piece that you can build off of for years to come, because Hicks will be a good piece for a year or 2, but he's 31 already, I believe. You need youth. at the linebacker position. Jeremiah Trotter Jr. is the future. You could get him with that pick in the second round. Now on to Ben Sinnott, who again, I think is my favorite player I have seen who is not ranked number one at his position in my entire time watching the NFL and all the drafts that I've watched and all the combines that I've watched. One of the big knocks on Sinnott right now is that he's not a true inline tight end. He's not a fantastic run blocker, and he's more of a fullback or an H-back. But the guy's 6'5", 250. And to me, you could build him into whatever you need him to be. But that is not what you want him to be. I'm telling you, Ben Sinnott, what this guy does with the ball in his hands is everything that this offense needs. What he can do run blocking on the move, like when he slices from the wing position across the formation and then lead blocks, that is what this team needs. Imagine them running read options with Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, and then having this guy moving as a lead blocker for you. There's a thing with tight ends, and I don't know if I can really describe it, but certain tight ends, when they run, they look clunky. Other ones, when they get moving, it's like their upper body is pulling themselves forward. It's what Kelsey does. It's what Gronk did. And you can see a little bit of Gronk within this Sinnott kid. He is such a hard runner when he catches the ball. And that is actually a knock on him, that he winds up being prone to fumbles because he fights for so much yardage after the play. He hurdles people at 6'5", 250. He goes up and makes contested catches and high points the ball. He doesn't let the ball into his chest like Theo Johnson from Penn State does, who's ranked higher than him for some reason. Even as a route runner running corner posts, this guy is explosive, and people don't realize it because yes, he ran a 4.6. He's not the fastest tight end ever, but he had a 40-inch vertical and he had the longest broad jump of all of the tight ends in the combine this year. That stop and start is very hard to teach and train. Ben Sinnott is a natural athlete, an amazing ball carrier who will hurdle you, run through you, juke you out, stiff arm you into the ground. He high points the ball and he is willing to run through you to lead block. That is what this team needs. So I don't care what they have to do everything in your power. Trade, if you have to trade Greg Newsome for a couple 2s, a 2 and a 3, whatever it is, to make sure that you can get Jeremiah Trotter Jr., but more importantly, Ben Sinnott from Kansas State. This will be a massively successful draft and a massively successful offseason. I am telling you guys, watch his highlights. I'll link them below, but you gotta believe me on this one. And if Andrew Barry, you are listening, please draft Ben Sinnott. So guys, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think about the Jeudy trade, what you think about Winston over Flacco, what you think about the rest of the free agent pickups, the re-signings, and what you think of Ben Sinnott and Jeremiah Trotter Jr. What would you do with that second and third round pick? And do you think that those guys are worthy of the praise that I'm giving them? So thank you guys so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share this with a Browns fan who needs to hear it, and we will see you guys in the next one. Coming at you soon.